When they arrive tomorrow, William and Kate are expected to draw thousands and along every stop of their tour. But there are Canadians who won't turn out to see the royal couple and who don't think much of the visit at all, in fact, or of the ties to the monarchy. My next guest, one of them, Tom Freda, the director and the co-founder of Citizens for a Canadian Republic. And thanks very much for coming in.
Anytime, Heather.
This royal visit, stated by the government officials, is to strengthen the ties, and particularly for the future with this new couple. The ties for the future, Canada and the monarchy, and you say this is the time to cut those ties. Why?
Well, we've thought that for a long time. You know, public opinion is very much behind this. But you know, you mentioned the current government's efforts in regard to this royal visit. This apparently is the most monarchist government in Canada since the 1950s, and which is a little odd because our Prime Minister is on record as saying to Maclean's magazine in 2002, "I'm not a monarchist." So what's happened to him in the meantime? This is it's unprecedented, the treatment that these royals are getting. They're being accorded head of state status. They're not diplomats or heads of state. They're getting the
future king.
That's debatable. We don't think that he'll ever accede to the throne in Canada, and most Canadians don't even want Prince Charles to succeed the Queen. So, you know, it's all rather odd where we're out there groveling and treating these people like we're still colonials. I think Canada has evolved well past this, you know.
You certainly hear that argument from people. You hear the money argument as well. Is that part of your opposition?
By all means. Look, while the Queen is our head of state, obviously we've got to cover the cost of having the Queen here. That's a given. We object to excessive costs, obviously, but even if the Queen was a visiting head of state of another country, we'd be paying to have her visit. But it's unprecedented pretty well everywhere in the world to cover the costs of a visiting or even a resident head of state's family, because that's what taxpayers are doing in Canada. We're covering the cost of her entire family, her children, her grandchildren, sisters, brothers, if she had any. We'd be footing the bill for the entire thing. And our government isn't being upfront about the costs either. They're under-reporting what this is costing the taxpayers. And
$1.5 million is what they're saying.
Well, that's probably going to cover 2 days. And that's, I mean, they're not discussing the costs of the RCMP, security with the local police forces. They're not telling us about what the provinces are paying. It could be upwards of $1 million a day.
So we've invited you in because we don't want to be all, you know, cheerleader for the royal visit. We want to hear another side of the story as well. But as you make your points to me, how do you plan to get these views out during the royal visit itself?
Well, we're not having any difficulty. The media is pounding on our door whenever there's a royal visit. We'd like the royals to come here all the time because it's the only time Canadians think about the monarchy. And when they do, they want to hear the other side of the story. And there is a very valid argument for dealing with the monarchy. Many public opinion polls have supported the argument that Canadians do want to even open the Constitution to deal with the monarchy. Last year, there was even a poll that said Conservative Party supporters lead that group who want to open the Constitution to deal with the monarchy. And time after time, we're seeing, even just recently, there was a poll that shows only 32% of Canadians support continuing with the monarchy now.
But it's not the numbers of those who want necessarily to go in another direction are not much higher. So
well, there is an apathetic group too.
Well, that's absolutely right, and there certainly is an indifference. But let me ask, are you planning any protest activity or anything while they're in town?
You know, we generally don't do protests. We don't want to be seen as against something.
Right.
We're for something. We're for Canadian independence. And clinging to this colonial vestige doesn't tell the world that we're independent. It tells the world that we're still lacking any fortitude in taking that last step to independence.
One of the things that polls do show us is just how popular this Prince William is, because you know, you're right about the lack of interest in Prince Charles, but Prince William is the most popular member of the royal family, and there's a lot of interest in his being king one day. So how do you plan to shift attitudes then?
Oh, we don't have to, because there are two separate stories here. There's the constitutional aspect, and then there's this popularity thing. There's no getting around it. These people are A-list celebrities. But again, going back to public opinion, that's what Canadians agree with. They believe that these people are simply celebrities, and quote-unquote, they should have no formal role in Canadian society. And that's not, those aren't my words, those are the Canadian public's. So there is a distinction between celebrity and, you know, you can't combat that. There will
so
always
we see
be
those crowds of hundreds of thousands, it's because they're stars, not...
They're stars, that's
okay.
it. And all you have to do is look at where they're going after they leave Canada. They're going to California, they'll get the red carpet treatment, and I should point out that the State Department isn't covering their costs in the U.S. They are having their costs covered by the private sector. And above all, they're going there...
But it's a totally different situation. I mean, it's obviously not a constitutional
they're not heads of state, they're not diplomats. The U.S. would be covering the Queen, but they're just coincidentally related to the Queen. That's not enough argument to have Canadian taxpayers fund their trip. And I should also mention, when they go to California, they'll be there to promote British interests, not Canadian. British interests at the expense of Canada.
British film, and British charity.
So that's the craziness of sharing a head of state.
Thank you for coming in. Good to see the other side, always. Okay. Thank you, Tom Freda, our guest here in studio today.